Hey guys, and today we are going to make that sea monster or the squid cabochon, and we're going to start out with a few supplies. You're going to need some nail polish, of course. You'll need one of the flat back cabochons that you can get at Dollar General for $2 a bag or any other craft store. You're going to need some soft baked clay. This I got from Walmart for $1 a package. 2 colors is preferable, or you can do one and paint it. You want a dotting tool, but if you don't have a dotting tool, you can substitute that with a box of toothpicks. You only need a couple. And here is an example of what we're going to create. This one I had done a few months ago. This one's going to be a more neat one, so if you want to do this, you're going to want to keep your cuts and shapes neater. But today we are going to do a sea monster on the back of this cabochon. So the first thing we're going to start out with, of course, is the eye, just like the dragon cabochon. So you want to get your black nail polish out. You can use crafting paint, that is okay, it doesn't matter, but you do not want this to be perfectly round. So go ahead and plop that on there. You figure you want about 1/3 or less of the eye to be covered with the pupil, and then, a few dots around the side actually adds. I think we're going to go with one more. Yes. Okay. This looks pretty awesome. So you already get the idea that, it's not a perfectly one, and if you've seen a squid, then you know what I'm going for. Now I'm going to use a green glitter from Revlon in Tantalize. It looks a little gold on screen, but I'm just going to layer that around the pupil. That is going to just be like a highlight around the pupil, and you'll see how it comes out in just a second. I'll show you. But you pat it on, it makes it easier to build the glitter without removing it or streaking it. And you see how wonderful that looks. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add our base. This is a luminizing style glitter. It's a purple, but it definitely, has shifts in color. Iridescent, that's the word I'm looking for. It has iridescent shifts. So it's really pretty. And again, this one's just you build your paint backwards. It's like doing a painting but backwards, because you have to have your first layers to show. And see how gorgeous that looks. It almost has a galaxy effect. Now we're going to add our third color, which is going to be this awesome purple. And it's a very metallic pearlescent purple. So we're just adding it around here. We don't want to take it all the way to the edge, and we don't want it to be too uniform, because again, this is a squid eye. It almost feels like there was no borders. So we just, again, pat it around. You don't want to pull it. Then you get your last color. I'm using a navy blue metallic pearlescent and just plopping it along the edge. I want to make sure all the way to the edge is completely covered, but I don't want to pull this too much so that it's translucent. You want it as opaque as possible. So this is what you will end up with. Well, I'll show you in a second. There we go. That's what you'll end up with. Very, very awesome. Now, I'm about to make a boo-boo. You want to roll out a piece of clay and put your cabochon on, but you want to wait until it's dry. And what happened here is I got a little ahead of myself. And as you can see, right about here, over there, you see this little green spot, and that's because the nail polish separated. But I'm forging on. We're going to cut a circle around, leaving about a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch border, like you see here. And you can see where the mistake is. It kind of out the bottom. But that's okay. No worries. We'll fix that. I'll show you. You want to roll out 6 of these little guys. They're not hard. You just keep rolling on one end a little more than the other, and you end up with these like squid tentacles. So you want to make 6, but you won't use all 6. The rest of them you'll pull apart into piecing for your edges. So you just kind of push them down a little bit. You don't mind that they're a little flatter, and you can bend and twirl and twist, but remember that orientation does make a difference, because we will be putting texture on some parts and the little sucker pieces on others, so be mindful of that. You just kind of pat it on. If you fuss with it too much, it won't stick, but after it's baked, I promise it's in there. You can also turn this into jewelry or anything else, so it's perfectly fine to do that. I got some dogs barking in the background. I'm sorry about that, guys, if you hear it. But again, you just kind of pull this around and drop it down onto the eyeball. Again, you kind of want to use the tentacles to put it in a methodical way so that it looks really neat. Now, when I was done, I wasn't happy with it, so I started to add, again, like I said, that excess around the edge, and then I start molded out my tentacles. So you just pat it around until you're happy with it. And here's what I came up with. So using that dotting tool or using a toothpick, as we spoke about before, just go ahead and start adding texture. I add little clusters of these dots in little random sporadic areas, and as you can see kind of on the inward part of the eyelid there, or that's what you consider the eyelid maybe, I have went in and pushed in a little bit of detail with the edge of the dotting tool. You can do that with a toothpick as well. But it just leaves it a little more uniform, but at the same time not uniform. Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense. Again, just keep dotting. And we're going to go ahead and finish this up here on the bottom. Just a few more. I think I'm going to get over here. I'm trying not to get in you guys' way so you can see everything that I'm doing. I hope I'm doing a good job at this. This is very difficult to film. So now we're going to start on the tentacles. You want to pick the side you're going to put your suckers on so that you can texture the other sides, because the sides that have the suckers are going to have a flat surface. We are going to actually shadow and color with pigment the entire piece before we actually add the suckers. Now sometimes that does make it harder for the suckers to stick, but if you do these right, it shouldn't be a problem. And I actually had a problem with one of my suckers sticking, and I fixed it for you guys on here because it's relatively simple to fix. But again, just keep putting the little dots in until you come up with something like this, and where you see the smooth areas is where I plan to put the suckers. So get your eyeshadow palette. Again, I said we were going to start with coloration, and we are going to go with, how about this really light, like pearly green? It has a lot of shimmer to it, which I love when making methodical style creatures, and especially sea creatures. So you just get a fluffy brush and you literally buff this into the surface. So I'm just going to keep going into here and pushing it into the clay. And when this bakes, you might polish it one time and get a little bit off, but after that it's set. It's set. So I'm going to continue this up. Okay, so once I've finished with that, I'm going to go in with a little black and do a little bit of detail work. And this is what gets people a little bit more nervous, but there's honestly nothing to be nervous about. So tap off the excess so you don't have a lot of fallout. And you want to pat on the little texture spots. This just gives it a little more depth and dimension. You don't have to do this if you're happy with the way it looks, but I wanted to do this. So once you just pat it around and stuff like that, you want to come back with another brush to blend off the excess fallout. It also gives it quite a bit of shadowing as well, which really helps with dimension on this as well. Another thing you can do is come back with another coat of the pearlescent green. But now let's move on and start putting those suckers on. So all I did was round out a small ball and place it on. It's that simple. So now that we've actually done that, I'm going to grab a dotting tool. Again, you can use a toothpick if you don't have one. Dotting tool will be easier for this. And you just kind of push a little bit. Now if you have a toothpick, be sure to break the end off, because with a little point, it's just going to tear this up. So you just kind of push in until you make a small well in the middle of it, and that's going to form our suckers. Pretty easy. Now, moving on to this one, we're going to push in, and as you can see, I've got a little bit of the eyeshadow pigment on this, obviously underneath where the suckers are, which is kind of important because then it makes sure that it's uniform and you're not trying to shove a brush all up in the edges. This one came off. All I did was reballed it back up and popped it back on and started working with it, and it fixed itself right up. So you can shape these the way you like. I'm pretty happy with them just being, imperfectly perfect. So you just do the rest the same way. Now, after you've done all of that, you can do this after or before baking. Right now I'm doing partial cleanup before baking. And then, you come back and you really polish up the whole entire piece with, you can use a rag, you can use just about anything. You want to be careful and wait until it's cool, but just polish it up. And here is what your finished piece comes out to look like. It is pretty awesome. You see the way that I put more silver in the middle of this one where I would have put that peridot? That's completely up to you guys. You can see the different transitions, and you can see some of the green through here, which I think makes it look cooler. But if you have any questions, leave them below. And until next time, guys, I will see you later.